of the offence under section 489B and
No,
489B and 489C of Indian Penal Code 1860. It is before the Honorable Court that the accused is guilty of.
Please listen. Just for a moment. Before coming to the second issue, can you?
Section 489B clearly every person would be held liable if he receives counterfeit.
Mr. Counsel, the co-judge is trying to ask you some questions.
Can you hear me?
Honorable judges, there may be some technical issues on the part of the my co-counsel. He may stop as he gets your message. Much obliged.
Yes. Are you at the receiving end now? So may I ask something? Am I audible to speaker? I think. Please unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, Your Lordship. Actually, it got muted.
No problem. No issue. Before you come to the another issue, may I know the circumstances which you were just explaining as far as the ingredient of the section 120B is concerned? Because you have said there are the circumstances. Can you highlight those circumstances?
Much obliged, Your Lordship. The counsel would like to state that though there is not direct evidence that the accused were doing a criminal conspiracy to do a bomb blast, but the accused are caught with high quality fake currency notes, which is a huge amount, that is 5 lakhs, and they were also they were traveling to Pulwama to deliver those currency notes. So so it can be inferred from the facts that those currency notes were used for doing a bomb blast, as also stated by Kalu Mama in the investigation by the police. So though there is not a direct nexus between the events, but we can infer that those fake, because they were containing a very huge amount of fake currency notes, and that is itself an illegal act, and they were being used for planning a bomb blast on the army convoy. Coming to issue 4, whether the accused is guilty of offence under 489B and 489C of Indian Penal Code 1860. It is humbly submitted before the Honorable Court that the accused is guilty of section 489 and 489B and 489C of the Indian Penal Code. Section 489B clearly states that any person would be held liable if he receives a counterfeit currency from any other person, or otherwise traffics it or uses it as a genuine, that same is forged or counterfeit. The person is also liable under 489C if he is in possession of forged or counterfeit currency, knowing that it is forged and intending to use same as a genuine. In the present case, Samir and Monu are found with high quality fake currency notes, which total amounts to 10 lakhs. Also, if we analyze section 489B and 489C clearly, it states that whoever sells or buys or receives from, and in the investigation by the police, it is revealed that Samir and Monu received the fake currency notes from Kalu Mama. Therefore, section 489B comes into the play. Also, under 489C, whoever has in possession of any forged or counterfeit currency and intends to use it as a genuine or a forged currency. In the investigation by the police, it is revealed that the currency was being used for doing a bomb blast on the army convoy. So, using a fake currency note for an illegal act is an illegal act under section 489C. If the judges are pleased with the arguments of the counsel, my co-counsel shall be dealing with issue 2 and issue 3 respectively.
Just before that one, please highlight the knowledge and intended use of the currency. That's all. Within 2 lines only.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, in the case of 489B and 489C, the knowledge or the mens rea on the part of respondent is irrelevant. if even if they don't have the mens area of carrying the fake currency notes, then also they are guilty because they were having the knowledge. They were carrying such a high amount of fake currency notes, and it can be inferred that they had full knowledge that those currency of high quality, those are high. So as stated in section 489, 489C, they genuine forged or counterfeit
Okay.
currency notes.
Now
Much obliged, your lordship.
can come in. Please.
Much obliged, your lordship, your ladyship. To begin, I would like to answer the question that your ladyship asked about how the special cell was able to proceed under the UAPA, because as information received by Guddu Singh as provided in the proposition on 24th of February 2015 at about 9 a.m. that Guddu Singh came up with the information that two guys are coming with a fake currency notes to Delhi, and for which they will be traveling further to do a terrorist act. Therefore, the special cell charged Samir and Monu under section 16, 17, 18 and 20 of the UAPA. If the judges are satisfied, the council would like to proceed with the issues.
So it means relying on the information of Guddu Singh, it was inferred that the fake currency note would be used for some blast and some kind of conspiracy for blast. Are you trying to say this?
Much obliged, your ladyship. The question that you asked is whether the information received from Guddu Singh and the circumstances that were in front of the special cell, that the information that was received from him was that two guys are coming with fake currency notes.
Yes.
Therefore, your ladyship, it is being circumstantial evidence that two guys were carrying fake currency, huge amount of fake currency note, which was further after examination, it was proved that the currency was of high quality and it was fake. So prima facie, it was believed by the special cell that this amount of money is to be used for a terrorist act.
Although the statement of Guddu Singh states that it was the two persons are carrying fake currency for some criminal activity in the country.
Much obliged, your ladyship. When it was being questioned to Samir and Monu, why were they traveling, it was revealed by Samir that they will be further going to Pulwama, for which they will be giving the money to accused number 4, that is Peter, after which the FIR was lodged and section 16, 17, 18 and 20 were written in. They were charged under section 16, 17, 18 and 20 of the UAPA.
Proceed.
Much obliged, your ladyship. Issue number 3, whether the charges under the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act 1967 implicates upon the accused is valid or not. As defined under read with section 15 of the UAPA, that whoever does an act with inherent to threaten or likely to threaten the unity, integrity, security or sovereignty of India, or with intent to strike terror or like to strike terror in the people or any section of the people in India or in any foreign country. As defined under section 15 of the UAPA, it is clear that the act of accused number 1, 2 and 3, namely Samir, Monu and Kalu, also known as Mama, that they were planning to do and in the investigation it is proved that they were planning to do a bomb blast on the army convoy on 15th of August 2015 to strike terror in the heart of the public, to disturb the public order and for the security of the country. In the case of Union of India versus
Mr. Counsel, just mention one concrete evidence from the statements of Samir, Monu and Kallu Mama, which links all of the accused.
The council is unable to hear the honorable judge. Please, ma'am, repeat.
I am saying just mention one concrete evidence from the statements of Samir, Monu, and Kallu Mama, which links all the four accused, including Sohail. Their statement 161 statements of Samir, Monu, and Kallu Mama.
Ma'am, the all the
How are they? Or the one concrete evidence from which links all three, all the accused.
all four of the accused, as mentioned in the proposition, that at the time of procurement of the fake currency notes by Kalu at Mama, it was provided to him by Sohail, that is accused number 5, which is at present absconding. And the fake currency notes, when procured by Kalu at Mama at 3 lakh rupees currency notes, it was then provided to Monu and Samir, which then carried the money from Malda to New Delhi. Whereas the location of Kalu at Mama, Samir, and Monu can be inferred from the call details that are provided in the proposition itself. This is the main point or the evidence which can connect all four of the accused, as Peter is now dead and he has committed suicide. Peter was also playing a key role in the bomb blast, as he was the one who has to receive the money from Samir and Monu for the procurement of the explosive, as provided in the statement in under section 161.
And in the statement of Kallu Mama, it is mentioned that he was also acquainted with Peter, right? Kallu Mama's statement also shows that Kallu Mama was also acquainted with Peter.
Yes, your ladyship.
Right. So this is one piece of concrete evidence on which the prosecution is relying and showing the chain of evidence. Completing
Yes,
the
your
chain of
ladyship.
evidence, I mean to say. I'm sorry, completing the chain of evidence.
Yes, your ladyship.
Continue.
In the case of Union of India versus Tulsi Ram Patel, 1985, the expression law and order, public order and security in the state were discussed. It was held in this case that situations those which affect security of state are the gravest. The danger to the security of the state may arise from within or outside the state. The expression security of the state does not only mean security of the entire country or as a whole state. It includes the security of a part of the state, or it also includes uh, uh, on it also includes that the attack on the army, armed rebellious or revolt against the state. There are various ways in which the security of the state can be affected. It can be affected by the state secrets of or information relating to the defense product or similar matters being passed on to the other countries, whether empirical or not, to our country, or by the secret leaks with terrorists. Here, in our present case, the secret of an army convoy being transporting from one place to another, and an attack that was planned on it on 15th of August 2015 is an attack on the defense personnel, which affects the security of the state. In Hitendra Vishnu Thakur and others versus State of Maharashtra, 1994, the court said that a terrorist activity does not merely arises by causing disturbance of law and order or of public order. The fallout of the intended activity must be such that it travels beyond the capacity of the ordinary law enforcement agencies to tackle it under the ordinary penal laws. Therefore, the sections of UAPA 16, 17, 18, and 20 are to be charged on the accused. Before summarizing, In the case of Bikanu versus State of Uttar Pradesh, 1997, the motive is a thing primarily known to the accused himself, and it may not be possible for the prosecution in each case to find out the real motive behind the crime. Therefore, the circumstantial evidence that is provided by the proposition before this court is relevant enough to charge Monu, Samir, and Kalu, also known as Mama, under the provisions of Section 120B, Section 489B, 489C of the IPC, and under Section 16, 17, 18, and 20 of the UAPA. If the honorable judges are satisfied, the council would like to pray. In the lights of the facts given, authorities cited, and cases referred, it is most humbly submitted before this honorable court that it would be pleased to charge Samir, accused 1, Monu, accused number 2, and Kalu at Mama, accused number 3, to charge them guilty under section 120B of the IPC, read with section 120A of IPC. It will also be in the eyes of law that the accused should be found guilty under the offense mentioned and punishment mentioned under section 16, 17, 18, and 20 of Unlawful Activity Prevention Act 1967, or pass any other order which the court may deem fit in the light of the fact and the cases for justice, equity, and good conscience. For this act of kindness, the prosecution rests.
Can we start with the defense now?
Your Honor. We can start with the defense.
With the subject to the correction with my learned friend, I would like to say the speaker 1 and speaker 2 for the defense side. So, Mr. Counsel, please say the emphasize again on the knowledge. First of all, because the case in hand is of the use of the fake currency. Secondly, you have to say something about the intended use of the currency at the same time, and you have to say something about the recovery also, and as well as the making out the ingredients of the offense which goes towards the waging of the war. So these points you may emphasize wherever you find the chance. Fine. Subject to the correction to my learned friend, if anything more for the defense side.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Come out fair. You can say that fearless, to be free from the tension, to please come out whatever the facts and circumstances and the law in your mind, please put up before us.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Lordship, the council would like to answer all the questions through the arguments.
Yes, please, you can start.
Yes. Is the time split I have to mention something?
Yeah, time
Yes,
you can.
we need to mention the time division between
Okay,
both
the
the speakers.
Speaker 1 will be speaking for around 12 minutes, and speaker 2 for 15 minutes, and we will reserve 3 minutes for rebuttals.
Okay.
Much obliged. So the council seeks permission to start its argument.
Speaker 1 starts at 11:30.
Much obliged. The council seeks permission to collectively call the bench as the lordships. Much obliged. May it please His honorable court. This is the first counsel appearing on behalf of the defense in the case of State versus Samir and others. Your lordship, this is a case where Samir and Monu were traveling to New Delhi for a rally orchestrated by an organization which is working for the upliftment for the oppressed class of society. This organization have been spreading awareness about the actions of the government through rallies for a few years. Through their efforts, they started gaining popularity, and the organization was even well known across the borders. They even received funds from organizing rally from Bangladesh and Pakistan. But this attention and this coverage was received by the organization was not well received by the government of India. Subsequently, the government imposed sanction which broke the fundamental monetary support of the organization. As they were unable to organize their rally because due to lack of funds, Sohail, who is the A5 in this instant case, contacted Kallu Mama, who is the A3, and informed that he had arranged some funds to conduct rally at New Delhi. In the presence of Kallu, Sohail handed over the money to Samir and Monu, who is the A1 and A2 in this present case, on 23 to 2015. And A1 and A2 had to deliver the money to Pita, who is the A4, in order to conduct the rally. Subsequently, through a sequence of events, A1, A2, and A3 was arrested, and since A4 is dead and A5 is still absconding, the charge sheet was filed only against A1 and A2 and A3. And now, after examination of all the witness and framing of charges, the case is in the final argument stage. Therefore, in order to prove the innocence of the accused, the counsel will be dealing this argument in threefold. Firstly, by establishing that the prosecution failed to establish an ingredient for Section 120B of Indian Penal Code. Secondly, by proving that the act of the accused did not amount to waging war under Section 120 of Indian Penal Code. Thirdly, by substantiating that the accused never concealed nor any attempt to waging war as per Section 123 of Indian Penal Code was attracted, thereby establishing that the prosecution failed to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. If the Lordship permits, the counsel will move further.
Please move ahead.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Before moving on to the first fold, the counsel would like to point a particular fact to the bench. Your Lordship, in this instant case, it is pertinent to note that no sanction from central or state government was obtained under Section 196 of CRPC. The provision under 196 Clause 1, specifically Clause A and Clause B of CRPC, mandates a sanction for taking cognizance of offences under Chapter 6 of Indian Penal Code. This bar of the sanction was 196 Clause 1 was also observed by Honorable Supreme Court in State of Karnataka versus Pastor P. Raju. The counsel pleaded before this bench just to take note of the particular aspect. And moving on to the first fold, Lordship, the first fold is about criminal conspiracy. And in order to deal the first fold, the counsel would like to cite the case Yogesh V versus State of Maharashtra. In this instance, the Honorable Supreme Court has held the basic ingredients for the offense of criminal conspiracy are that there must be an agreement between two persons, and the agreement must be related to do or to cause either an illegal act or an act which is not illegal by itself, but it is done in an illegal means. Thus, it could be simply stated that meeting of mind of two or more persons for doing or causing to done an illegal act or an act by illegal means is a sine qua non of a criminal conspiracy. The gist of an offense lies in the agreement to break the law. Mere knowledge or even discussion or the plan not per se is enough to attract a conviction under 120B. Here, accused A1 and A2 has absolutely no knowledge about presence of any currency in their bag, let alone the FICNs. The accused A3 had no knowledge as that the currency handed over him to by A5 was fake Indian counterfeit notes. It was also held in Mammootty versus State of Karnataka also, that where it is not shown that accused had knowledge or reason to believe that the notes were counterfeits, then the conviction is not properly proved beyond reasonable doubt. Presumption of knowledge from mere possession can be drawn only if the notes were apparently counterfeit. But in this instant case, Your Lordship, the fake currencies were of high quality, that it is not easy for a prudent man could spot any difference between normal currency and this counterfeit notes. And without knowledge, Your Lordship, there can be no agreement can be established by the prosecution, as the knowledge of the object of the conspiracy is the main requisite to establish the Section 120B of Indian Penal Code.
What you say about the possession, how it came into your possession?
Your Lordship, it is accused that is Sohail, who was the source of the fake currencies, and he handed over it to the he handed over to the A1 and A3, and it subsequently came on to he handed over to the A3, and it subsequently came on to A1 and A2. So the A1, A2, and A3, who is the accused in this present case, has no knowledge about the possession. No knowledge of possession that they are having a high quality fake currency notes, Your Lordship.
Okay.
Much obliged. And therefore, it is submitted that the prosecution has failed to establish the meeting of mind or the agreement of the agreement among the accused, Your Lordship. It is also pertinent to note the Supreme Court decision in a state of NCLT versus Dojo Sandhu, which ruled that most of the conspiracies are proved by circumstantial evidence. Usually, both the existence of the conspiracy and its object to be.
How do you describe the mens rea of the accused Samir and Monu here? They were carrying such a high quantity of notes in the general class compartment in the carry bag, and they had to hand over it to Peter at Pulwama. How do you deny the mens rea?
Lordship, the counsel is denying the mens rea by stating that the accused A1 and A2 was carrying the money for rally. All they thought that was that they carrying genuine notes. They were never thought that the notes were in the counterfeit in nature. They were have no knowledge about the notes they were carrying is of high quality FACNs. Since it is of high quality, it can be easily established that then even not a prudent man could spot any difference between a normal notes and the high quality notes.
And a
In this
prudent
sense,
man would carry such high quantity 5 lakhs, around 5 lakhs of note in the general compartment in a hidden manner.
Lordship, in this instant case, they were traveling to Delhi to conduct a rally, and it is a case of the in this instant case, the accused thought it would be the accused was carrying this note in order to organize the rally, and they thought the fastest mean by would be by train, and therefore they carried the notes through the train. And it is the only point the defense counsel would like to submit is that the accused had no knowledge that the notes they are carrying were of the counterfeit. That is the only point the accused the defense counsel submits the argument, Your Lordship. And this particular point will be completely dealt by my co-counsel, who will be completely dealing the charges under 489B and 489C of Indian Penal Code. With the Lordship permit, the council may further continue. Much obliged, Your Lordship. In the Supreme Court, in the state of NCLT versus Navjot Sandhu, ruled that the conspiracy or be proved by circumstantial evidence, and usually the existence of the conspiracy and its object to be inferred from the circumstantial and the conduct of the accused. The well-known governing rule of the circumstantial evidence is that each and every incriminating circumstance must be clearly established by a reliable piece of evidence, and the circumstance so proved must be form a chain of events from which there should be only one irresistible conclusion, that is the guilt of the accused. There should be no possibility of even in other hypothesis. There should be no possibility of other hypothesis which pointing out the other than the guilt of the accused. But in this instant case, the prosecution failed to prove the chain of events. Moreover, it is also submitted that there is more than one hypothesis is possible in this instant case. Defense also submit to the fact that the seized currencies are FACNs, but rebut the argument just that accused had the knowledge. Your Lordship, the accused A1 in A2 had never had any knowledge about the currency being the FACNs in the very first place. It was also brought on record by the Honorable Court through the testimony of DW1, DW2, and DW3, which is submitted as Exhibit 7. Therefore, it could be very well submitted that there was no conspiracy was established between A1 and A2 and A3. Hence,
How you deal the call details and the seizure of the telephones and the telephones
Your Lordship,
using in the bank KYC by the accused?
Your Lordship, it is also submitted that the in order to establish any evidence, it has been proved in the spirit of Section 3 of Indian Evidence Act. In this instant case, the Telangana Prosecution Council has never proved anything about the CDR records. Therefore, it is conclusively said that it is not conclusively proved. Therefore, it is considered as not proved. Therefore, the onus of disproving is not lies in the defense, Lordship. The prosecution has never proved anything. And if the Lordships, in order for the Lordship's satisfaction, the council would like to answer this particular question, assuming that it was proved, stating that in this instant case, the CDR records submitted was that there was no time when the call was made, what was the duration, what was the transcript. All this evidence was not at all submitted. Therefore, the CDR records did not establish any fact in issue, Your Lordship. It could be of any calls. The council is not denying the knowledge that A3 knew A4 or A5. The council is denying the knowledge that the currency they were carrying of high quality fake currencies, and the council is denying the knowledge of any waging war or any concealment to wage war. The council is denying only such aspect. The council is not denying any aspects that they never knew or A3, A4 and A5.
Please move ahead.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Hence, conclude some and Your Lordship, it is also submitted that since prosecution has failed to prove the criminal conspiracy beyond reasonable doubt, the charge for punishment of conspiracy under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act under Section 18 will also fail to sustain. Therefore, the council conclude the first fold of the argument by stating that accused is not liable under Section 120B of IPC with Section 18 of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. And moving further, the second fold of the argument will be dealing with the waging war against Government of India. And in order to deal with the argument, the council would like to cite MD Jamaluddin Nazir versus State of West Bengal. In this instant case, Supreme Court, while enumerating what are the principles to be kept in mind involving the application of Section 121 read with 120B, the Apex Court observed that not all violent behavior would fall within the prescription of waging war. as contemplated under section 121. It is also found that the object sought to make a case for application of 121 should be directed against the sovereignty of the state and not merely a commission of crime, even if it happened to be of higher magnitude. The concept of waging war should not be stretched too far. In plethora of cases, it is time and again ruled that the honorable court that there must be an active suggestion or stimulation to use violence in order to attract section 121 of APC. In this instant case, the authorities have categorically failed to produce any evidence to establish either intention or stimulation of violence in the part of the accused.
Now explain the blast code दुल्हन को सजाने का वक्त आ गया है. That was the statement that was made by Sohail, and its relation or how do you deny its connection with the blast code? दुल्हन को
Lordship,
सजाने का वक्त आ गया है.
the council denies the blast code merely by stating that in this instant case, A1 and A2 was traveling only apparently to Delhi, and there was no evidence or no proof established by the prosecution that they were traveling to Pulwama. And secondly, the council will also will dealing this particular point in the next fold of the argument, as it was a confession which is given in the police custody, which is rendered inadmissible under section 25 and 26 of the Evidence Act. So the council will be dealing this particular point in the next fold of the argument, Lordship. Lordship, the council may move on.
Do you agree that the human as well as the currency movement was being made for the awareness in the rally somewhere?
Council apologies, and that is like I couldn't get the question, Your Lordship.
Do you agree? Because I find somewhere under para 14 of the some document supplied to me that human movement as well as the currency movement through the train route was being moved for the purpose of raising the awareness in some rally in the Delhi. What do you say about it?
Lordship, the council
जो ये एक्यूज हैं और मनी है, ये दोनों ट्रेन के थ्रू दिल्ली में किसी रैली में कोई अवेयरनेस रेज करने के लिए यूज होने जा रहे थे. Do you agree?
The council is unable to understand Hindi.
Okay, I'll come again in English. Whether the question, please kindly listen, whether the human movement means the accused themselves along with the currency, which is said to be fake, was being used for raising the awareness in some rally at New Delhi.
Your Lordship, the council is.
Am I clear?
Indeed, Your Lordship. The council could understand the bench concern. The council would like to answer is by stating that in this instant case, the accused themselves thought it was completely a genuine currency. They never thought it was a fake currency, and in order to use it for rally, they thought it was a genuine currency, and in order to use the genuine currency for rallies, they went for Delhi. But unfortunately, it was found to be a fake currency note, which is council is absolutely not denying. The council is denying only one particular aspect, that is the accused never knew that it was a fake currency. That is what the council's only submission, and this will be also particularly dealt in detail by my co-counsel, who will be particularly dealing with the charges under section 389B and C of Indian Penal Code.
Please.
Much obliged. And the council requests just 2 minutes of extra time in order to complete the entire argument.
If my learned friend agreed.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Therefore, moving further, it is also categorically submitted that the authorities have categorically failed to produce any evidence to establish either the intention or stimulation of violence on the part of the accused. The case of the prosecution was the accused attempted to wage war against government of India through a bomb blast in Pulwama. But in this instance, the prosecution was never able to establish the fact that the accused was in fact traveling to Pulwama. He intended to travel to Pulwama. It is pertinent to note that A1, A2 had railway tickets only up to Delhi from Malda, where he intended to attend a rally at Delhi. There was no single piece of evidence to prove that proved by the prosecution that the accused was intended to travel to Pulwama to constitute such serious offense. Moreover, Supreme Court in State versus Meronisa has clearly held that a balanced and realistic approach must be called in for considering the expression of waging war, irrespective of how it is viewed for the long past, and without any possibility of violence in this provision fails to sustain. In this instant case, it is also submitted that there are no direct evidence or nor any circumstantial evidence to prove that A1 and A2 and A3 has in fact attempt to wage war against government of India. Therefore, the council concludes this fold of the argument by stating that accused is not liable and waging war against the government of India. And moving further, it is also humbly submitted that the Learned Prosecution Council has heavily relied on the custodial confession. But it is pertinent to note that under Section 25 and 26 of the Evidence Act, no confession given to the police officer under police custody shall be proved. It is not even admissible in the eyes of law. As by the words of Honorable Supreme Court in Ram Singh versus Central Bureau of Narcotics, it is ruled that confession statement before a police
Mr.
officer.
Counsel, I think we have limited time, so can we start with speaker 2 now?
Just two statements, Your Lordship. Just two sentences, and the council would conclude the entire argument. So, by placing reliance on 225 to 26, no confession statement will be valid. Therefore, since the prosecution has failed to establish Section 121, Section 123 also will be failed to establish, as the knowledge to design war is the essence for Section.
And there is one Section 27 in Evidence Act which relates to the discovery of fact.
Indeed,
so that is applicable in this case. Okay. So let us start with speaker 2 now.
Lordship, the council would like to answer the bench question. The 27 will be applicable only if there is a discovered fact is relevant to the fact in issue and the related fact. In this instant case, in order to establish the fact in issue, the relevance has been proved. In order to prove the relevancy, it is also to be proved that the accused has any intention or accused has.
Council, please let the other speaker start because we have very limited time for the slots.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
I'm really sorry, but we will have to start.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. It was an honor arguing before this court. Much obliged.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Much obliged, Lordship. This is counsel number 2 appealing on behalf of the defense. Before dealing with the charges, the counsel would like to briefly state the factual background on which the charges are framed. A1 and A2 were arrested by the officers of the Special Cell of Delhi Police based on a secret information. During the personal search of A1 and A2, 500 notes of high quality fake currency notes were recovered of rupees 2000 rupees denomination having face value equivalent to rupees 10 lakhs was recovered from A1 and A2. The prosecution has charged A1 and A2 and A3 under section 489B, 489C of IPC. In the case of Girdhari Lal versus State of Madhya Pradesh, that to be guilty under section 489B, it should be established that the currency notes were forged. The accused should have sold, bought or received any other person or traffic the counterfeit notes, and at the time of doing an offense, he must have either known or had a reason to believe that the notes were counterfeit. In this instant case, the counsel would like to stress upon the fact that the mens rea in this particular section is whether the accused is aware that the notes were counterfeit or not. The mens rea under this section is not the intention to use the notes are genuine, which is wrongly pointed out by the prosecution counsel. In this instant case, the currency notes were forged. A1 and A2 had received the notes from A5, but A1 and A2 did not have the knowledge that the notes were counterfeit in nature. In the case of Uma Shankar versus State of Chhattisgarh, the Supreme Court held that the mens rea is an essential condition to be present in economic offences under section 489B and 489C of IPC. Without the presence of mens rea, selling, buying, or receiving does not amount to an offence under section 489B. It is pertinent to know the fact that in the case of Abdul Majid Abdul Rahman Sarkar versus State of Maharashtra, that the note was fake was confirmed only after examining by an experienced person in the field, which will go to show that there is no apparent sign in the note or any ordinary man to conclude that it is a counterfeit note. In this instant case, the notes were counterfeit was concluded only by the expert opinion given by the Central Forensic Science Authority. The expert evidence also shows that the notes were of high quality in nature, which is very difficult to identify that the notes are counterfeit. So an ordinary man like the accused, who is not an expert in the field of examining fake currencies, would not have had the knowledge that the notes are counterfeit in nature. Moving on further, Your Lordship, in the case of Mahendra Singh Ket Singh Rao versus State of Karnataka, it was held that the educational qualification, intelligence, understanding capacity, the capacity to read and write are the relevant facts which needs to be proved by the prosecution in order to fasten the liability under section 489B. The court should be satisfied that the accused had the capacity to understand and distinguish between the difference between a genuine note and a fake currency note. In this instant case, the accused A1 was a driver by profession, and A2 was a farmer, and A3 was an embroidery worker and a lychee contractor. It is pertinent to note the point that to the bare eyes of an educated person, he might have the knowledge that the notes are counterfeit in nature. But the accused being an uneducated person, he will not have the knowledge that the notes of the same are counterfeit in nature. So the counsel would like to humbly submit that since the notes
Mr. Counsel, just a minute. So you admitting the fact to the extent that the notes were recovered from Samir and Monu, which were fake, and it was in their possession.
Indeed, also.
Okay. And as far as the educational qualification goes, Samir was a driver and the other person was an embroidery worker. Even daily wages, they know the difference between fake currency and the original currency.
Indeed, not, Your Lordship. The council would like to point out the fact that a person can distinguish between a fake currency and a fake currency and a genuine currency only if there is a difference in the physical characteristics of the notes. But the council would like to rely upon Annexure G.
What page?
Just a minute, Your Lordship. The council would like to rely upon the photographs of the notes seized in this instant case. From the mere seeing of the photograph, there is no physical characteristics which clearly states the fact that it is a fake currency note. And it is also pertinent to note the point that it is a high quality fake currency note which disables the accused to point out that it is a fake currency note. In this instant case, from naked eye by seeing the photographs of the seized notes, it is not apparent from the naked eye that it is a fake currency note. If your lordship refer to the photographs of the counterfeit notes seized, there has not been any difference in the physical qualities of the notes of a genuine currency and a fake currency. It looks exactly similar to the 2000 rupees denomination currency, which is printed by the RBI. So there is no apparent or naked evidence as to point out the reason to believe for the accused that it was a fake currency. The council would like to move. If the lordship is satisfied with the argument, the council would like to move on further. Indeed, Your Lordship, it is pertinent to note the timeline and the time gap of events. According to the prosecution, A1 and A2 left Agar Malwa on 21/2/2015. A3 joined A1 and A2 in the train journey at Farakka railway station. A3 pointed out that A3 picked up A1 and A2 from the Malda town railway station on 23/2/2015, where the notes were delivered to A1 and A2 in the presence of A5. As soon as A1, A2, A3 arrived at the house of A3, A5 delivered the consignment to A1 and A2. After receiving the said notes on the very same day, A1 and A2 left for Delhi. So there is no time gap or nor any opportunity for A1, A2, A3 to inspect whether the alleged notes were counterfeit or genuine. Indeed, Your Lordship, the council does not rebut the fact whether A5 has the knowledge whether the notes are counterfeit in nature. But as far as A1, A2, and A3 are concerned, they do not have any knowledge whether the notes are counterfeit in nature, since there was not any time gap of events between the receiving of notes and traveling to Delhi. As soon as the notes were received, the accused had left to Delhi and they did not have the opportunity to inspect the bag, whether to distinguish the fact whether it is a genuine currency or a fake currency. So the council would like to humbly submit that due to the time gap of events, it is very clear that the accused did not have the knowledge that the notes are fake currency. Moving on further, the council would like to A3 is also charged under section 489B of IPC. A3 cannot be liable under section 489B since there is no conclusive evidence that A3 gave the notes to A1 and A2. There is no evidence that A3 had received the notes prior to A3 23/2/2015 to establish the fact that he had given the notes to A1 and A2. It was pointed out by the prosecution that A5 was present in A3's house when the consignment was delivered. This is very apparently written in the charge sheet framed by the prosecution. So there arises a reasonable doubt that A1 and A2 would have received the consignment from A5 and not A3. Since A5 was present in the same house, there is a reasonable doubt that A5 would have given the notes to A1 and A2 and not A3. And there is also no particular evidences which clearly establish to the fact that A3 gave the notes to A1 and A2. So unless and until an accused under section 489B and the essential ingredient under section 489B is satisfied that the accused had trafficked or received fake currency notes, an offense under section 489B is not made out. Since there is a reason.
Do you want to suggest that the notes were handed over by the A5 to A1 and A2?
Indeed, Your Lordship, there is a reasonable doubt that A5 would have given the notes to A1 and A2 since A5 was present in the house when the notes were delivered. And there is also no conclusive proof that A3 had given the notes to A1 and A2. So there exists a reasonable doubt that A5 would have given the notes to A1 and A2, which proves the fact that A3 cannot be made liable under section 489B. Since the main
anything about the seized property from the house of the A3?
Your Lordship, the council does not understand the question.
Anything has been seized from the house of the A3?
Indeed, not, Your Lordship. The prosecution has conducted so many search and seizures in the house of A3, and A3 in the house of A3, no counterfeit notes were received. So there exists a reasonable doubt that A5 had given the notes to A1 and A2 and not A3. So A3 cannot be made liable under section 489B, since the main essential ingredient that an accused should have received are traffic notes, which is not satisfied in this instant case. And the prosecution has also had not proved beyond reasonable doubt that A3 had given the notes to A1 and A2. If Your Lordship is convinced with the argument, the council would like to move on further.
Please move on.
Indeed, Your Lordship. In the case of Kishore versus State of Himachal Pradesh, reported in the Supreme Court, the court held that there must be a chain of evidence so far consistent and complete as not to leave any reasonable ground for a conclusion consistent with the innocence of the accused, and it must be established in all probability that the accused must have done by the accused and the accused alone. So the council humbly submits that there exists a reasonable doubt that A5 would have given the notes to A1 and A2. Due to the absence of any evidence that A3 had given the notes to A1 and A2, A3 cannot be made liable under section 489B. It is also important to note that Your Lordship posed a question that it was carried in a concealed manner to my co-counsel previously. So the council would like to answer why the counterfeit notes were received seized from a secret cavity. The council would like to. It is important to note the point that carrying the currency in a compartment of a bag would not amount to concealment. Just because the currency was in a secret cavity, it does not establish the fact that the accused had knowledge that the currency notes was.
Mr. Counsel, what your argument, you're trying to say that you're delinking the accused number A1 and A2 from the fake currency charges, but you're linking them with the bomb blast, planning of the bomb blast, with the unlawful activities charges.
Indeed, not, Your Lordship. Mere possession will not amount to a linking of the charges against 121.
You said that it was A5 who has handed over the currency notes to A1 and A2.
Indeed, Your Lordship. The accused had received the currency on the intention that it was.
First. Please listen first the query what is being posed to you.
Indeed, Your Lordship.
Please listen.
Yeah. So A1 and A2 received the currency notes from A5, right? As per your own arguments, okay? So if A1 and A2 have received the currency notes from A5, then A5 was having an agenda against the government of the country, and he is absconded from the country. So if A5 had handed to A1 and A2 those currency notes, it was for some illegal activities. It was some to destabilize the country for some activities of that kind. Does it mean that even if you are delinking them from the fake currency note charges? Because A5 is clearly been charged with unlawful activities act sections, okay?
AFI is not even charged in
no charge means he has been linked with that unlawful. He was the one who made the code दुल्हन को विदाई का वक्त बदलना है blast code.
Indeed, Your Lordship, the council would like to state that the Hindi phrase which is being used as a bomb blast code is a confession and it is not admissible under Section 25 of Evidence Act. And on the basis of the confession, no subsequent fact was being discovered in order to make the confession admissible in this instant case. Moving on to the second question.
This is exactly what I am trying to tell you. Sohail has not even been arrested. He is absconding. So the mention of Sohail has only been made by Kallu Mama in his in the statement of Kallu Mama, and you are linking A1 and A2 with Sohail.
Indeed, Your Lordship, the council would like to humbly state the fact that A1 and A2 had received the currency with an intention that this particular currency was going to be used for the rally. Only A5 would have had the intention that it was going to be from the bomb blast, which is not relevant to this particular case. But A1 and A2 had received the currency notes innocently, presuming that it is going to be used for the rally. And A1 and A2, since they have been associated in rallies previously, and it was since the notes were received from A5, they presumed that this notes were only used for the rallies which is going to be conducted. And and the rallies would not even amount to unlawful rallies, because every person who had the fundamental right to conduct rallies against the agenda of the government policies.
What
And it
by
is
the nature? What by the nature and agenda of that rally? Can you state in one line?
the facts are silent about the same.
No, it's not silent. It's there. It was. May I say something about the raising awareness against propaganda of the government against the oppressed class and recovery is admitted to that effect. What do you say about it?
Indeed, Your Lordship, the government policies were framed against in such a way that it oppressed the minor classes of the society. So
what propaganda, please mind it, what propaganda of government is used there? Are you aware about it?
Indeed not, Your Lordship.
Please go through the records.
Your Lordship, it has been only stated that they have been protesting against propaganda of the government policy, which where the policy aimed to oppress the minor classes. But the facts are not in detail as to what propaganda which was framed by the government in order to conduct the rally. So the council is not aware of the same.
Please go ahead.
Indeed, Your Lordship, the council like to move on. For Your Lordship asked if Your Lordship is satisfied with the argument, the council like to move on. Indeed, Your Lordship. The prosecution tried to prove that A1 and A2 had delivered the FIC and consignment before by relying upon the CDR reports in July 2014 and September 2014. However, this evidence only shows that he has been present in Malda, but does not corroborate that he went to collect or deliver fake notes. Since there has been no direct evidence or circumstantial evidence to show that A1 and A2 had palmed off notes before to establish the fact that he knew that the notes were counterfeit, there exists a reasonable doubt that he did not know the nature of the currency to be counterfeit. So it is humbly submitted that the accused were not aware that the notes were counterfeit. The accused were also charged under Section 489C of the IPC for the possession of high quality fake currencies notes. But the council would like to reiterate upon the same fact that the offense under Section 489C is made out only if the accused had the knowledge that the notes were counterfeit, which is absent in this instant case. So the council humbly submits that all the three accused are not liable under Section 489C. The council also, the prosecution also charged the accused under Section 201 of IPC for disappearance of evidence. In the case of Sukaram versus State of Maharashtra, held that an essential ingredient that needs to be satisfied for an offense under Section 201R, there must be an offense that has been committed. A person should have caused disappearance of evidence of the crime committed. It should be done with the intention of screening or saving the culprit from the punishment. In this instant case, in the case of Chandrapal Singh versus Maharaj Singh, the court held that there should be a cogent evidence on record to suggest that the accused has caused the disappearance in order to screen a culprit from punishment. In this instant case, the charge sheet does not state as to a single word as to what existing evidence was destroyed by the accused in respect of an offense that was already committed with the intention of screening the offender. It is humbly submitted that the NIA department conducted a search in the house of A5 several times, and the charge sheet is silent on the fact whether these searches were conducted after or previous the disappearance of evidence. The council would like to humbly ask for 3 minutes to summarize the arguments. Your Lordship, the council requests time to summarize the arguments.
You said that he should not be charged under 489B also. In 489B, even if somebody using the fake currency as genuine, he can be charged with 489B. If he was carrying the currency note, even as even if you are not having the knowledge and he was carrying those fake currency note, he was in the process of using those notes. So how do you
Indeed, not a Lordship. In MMT versus State of Karnataka, the Supreme Court clearly held that the mens rea under this section is the knowledge whether the accused had knowledge that the notes were counterfeit or not. In this instance,
Mr. Counsel, mens rea is an assumption. Mens rea
cannot be an assumption.
It is an assumption. Mens rea, you cannot infer from any direct proof or evidence.
Indeed, Your Lordship, then the prosecution should establish that the accused were involved in trafficking of fake currency notes several times before this happening of this event. The prosecution has relied upon the CDI records in order to prove that the accused had traffic notes before. But the CDI records clearly point out the fact that they have only visited from Madhya Pradesh to Malda, but that does not establish the fact that they went to Malda to traffic notes. So it does not establish the fact that the accused were aware that the notes were counterfeit, and it was not also established by the prosecution, and there was also no attempt by the prosecution to establish that the accused had traffic notes several times before, and they have been a habitual offender under Section 489B. Unless and indeed, Your Lordship, the council accepts that there will not be any direct evidence in order to prove the knowledge. But even with the help of circumstantial evidence, no chain of circumstances has been proved by the prosecution in order to prove it beyond reasonable doubt that the accused had the knowledge that the notes are counterfeit. If Your Lordship is satisfied with the argument, the council would like to move on.
Please go on.
Indeed, Your Lordship, the council would like to. If the search was conducted before the disappearance of evidence, then the evidence would have been discovered at AFI's house, which has not happened in this instant case. If the search was conducted after the evidence was destroyed, the prosecution would have found some proof indicating that the evidence was destroyed. In this instant case, there was no proof found by the prosecution that the evidence was destroyed at AFI's house. So A3 and A3 cannot be liable under Section 201 of IPC. It is also pertinent to note the point that the disappearance of evidence which has been alleged by the prosecution has happened on 26/2015. But the accused A1 and A2 had already been arrested on 25/2015. So there will not be any probability that they would have gone to AFI's house to cause disappearance of evidence. So the council like to humbly submit that A1, A2, A3 cannot be liable under Section 201 of IPC. The council, the prosecution has also charged the accused under sections of UAP Act. An offence under the cognizance of a case under Section UAP Act can be taken only if a valid sanction has been obtained from the central government. In this instant case, the relevant exhibit which is related to the sanction is Exhibit 4. Section 45 of UAP Act clearly states that a sanction needs to be obtained from the central government and not central government in order to take cognizance of the offence. In this instant case, the council referring to Exhibit 4, where the sanction has been obtained from a district magistrate. The sanction was accorded by the district magistrate, but the sanction should be obtained from the central government in order to take cognizance of the offence. Since the sanction is not valid in this instant case, the whole court cannot take cognizance in this instant case, and the whole case is void ab initio, as held in the case of Ibrahim Ahmed versus. In the case of Iqbal Ahmed versus State of Andhra Pradesh, the council, it is humbly submitted that the accused are also charged under Section 15 of UAP Act. It is to be noted that the opening of the section starts with the phrase, "Whoever does any act with an intent to threaten, unless and until a person has the intention and knowledge that the notes are counterfeit in the nature of an accused, cannot be liable under Section 15 of UAP. Since the accused did not have the knowledge that the notes are counterfeit in nature, there arises no question whether he had intended to damage the monetary stability of or the sovereignty of India. Since an offence under Section 15 is not made out, he cannot be punished under Section 16 of UAP Act. So the council like to humbly submit that the accused cannot be liable under Section 16 and 17 of UAP Act. If your lordship is satisfied with the arguments, the council like to move on to the prayer.
Please.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Therefore, in the light of facts stated, issues raised, arguments advanced, and authorities cited, it is humbly prayed that this honorable court may be pleased to hold, adjudge, and declare that Samir, Monu, and Kallu at Mama are not liable under offence under Section 121, 123B, 123, 120B, 201, 489B, 489C, read with Section 16, 17, 18, and 20 of Unlawful Prevention Act, and pass any order other it may deem fit in the interest of justice, equity, good conscience. All of which is most humbly and respectfully submitted. It was a honor pleading before this court. The defense has the arguments.
Please. Now, I think rebuttal turns it come.
If your lordship and your ladyship permit, the council would like to. If your lordship and your ladyship permit, the council would like to ask the rebuttal questions.
Please say something. Please say something about section 201 and as well as about the sanction part by the government. Please address on those two accounts also.
Much obliged, your lordship. The first question from from the defendant is, since the defendant has assumed a lot of facts, and they are stating that the Samir and Monu were not aware that the notes are a counterfeit. As stated in the facts, Samir and Monu were traveling with total 10 lakh currency, 10 lakh rupees, out of which 5 lakh rupees were in a black bag and 5 lakh were in a brown bag. If we come to the concept of a reasonable, prudent man, who it's prima facie evident he's travel with 10 lakh after such a short span of time which the demonetization of currency took place. So it can be area and knowledge that the currency notes are fake. It is even possible that the currency notes which are, that is the other bag of 5 lakh rupees, were a real notes, and the notes procured were a contention of the defendant that they were not aware of the fake currency notes stands null and void. My co-counsel shall ask the other questions as permitted by the honorable judges.
Okay.
Much obliged, your lordship. To the lordship, it is to be mentioned here that in the paragraph 17.9 of the proposition, it is being clearly mentioned by Shah Rukh Khan. If we take the evidences, or we create the chain of events, that Shah Rukh Khan has seen Sohail going from one place. Sorry, it is in paragraph 17.28 of the proposition, that Shah Rukh Khan has seen Sohail going from one place, going to Bangladesh when he was absconding to Bangladesh with Kalu Mama and another unknown guy in black kurta pajama. In paragraph 17.30, it is being given that Iqbal Khan was arrested in the month of on 7th of February when they were trying to procure the fake currency notes. For the first time, Sohail was trying to give notes, procure fake currency notes. In paragraph 17.31, it is stated that the fake currency note of denomination 10 lakh was procured for about an amount of 3.5 lakh rupees, which makes it clear that the currency notes were fake and were in the knowledge of Kalu, also known as Mama, that the currency notes were fake. Moving further, in paragraph 17.9, it was admitted by Samir that he used to get 10% commission on every time he goes on to deliver any amount of money that was fake currency notes. And as admitted by Rupendra Singh, Superintendent of Police of the CIO NIA New Delhi, if we go to his verdict under section 161, he clearly states that दुल्हन को सजाने का वक्त आ चुका है. And also by PW2, Iqbal Khan, who is a friend of Samir and Monu, he also says that in January 2015, you can refer to PW2 on page number 47 and 48 respectively. In that, he says that Kalu Mama has made a statement, India not being a country worth living, country of intolerance, dulhan ko sajana padega, which makes it clear that he was in Kalu Mama's word, in January he said Dulhan ko sajana padega, and in February 25th of February 2015, Sameer and Monu were held with fake currency note, which Kalu Mama knew were fake, which he got from Sohail, who is a member of who has connection with Lashkar-e-Taiba and in Pakistan and Bangladesh. Therefore, the contention and the proceeding by the Council of the Defense stands void.
Now, whose turn is there?
Your Lordship, the council seeks the permission of the bench to surrender the points.
Please kindly.
The learned counsel for prosecution relate that eyewitness has been eyewitness named Shah Rukh Khan has seen A3 in the house in A5's house, but the eyewitness was not able to corroborate the fact that the eyewitness saw that A3 has disappeared evidence in A5's house. He has just seen that A3 was in the house of A5. So it does not establish the fact that there is no evidence to prove that section 201 for an offence to be made out under section 201. The council also, the council for the prosecution also relate that the 10% of commission is going to be received on the alleged transaction which is going to be made. This is a custodial confession which is being given by the accused in NIA, and it is not an admissible evidence since under section 25 of Evidence Act, which has been upheld in the case of Ram Prasad versus State of Maharashtra. Only the phrase which has been relayed, that is, he is going to receive 10% commission, can only be relayed only if a subsequent discovery or any evidence has been found by the prosecution to corroborate the same. Unless and until it has not been corroborated, the custodial confession given by the accused cannot be made admissible in this instant court, in this honorable court. The council also relied upon the learned counsel pointed out the difference. It is the learned counsel pointed out that it is sufficient to prove that possession of fake currency notes is self enough to attract offence under section 489B. However, the council like to reiterate the fact that the mens rea under section 489B is a knowledge and not the intention to use the same as genuine. Intention to use the same as genuine is an actus reus under the section and not the mens rea. The mens rea part under section 489B is a knowledge which is not present in this instant case, and the prosecution has failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that there exists knowledge of the accused that he knew that the notes were counterfeit in nature. So the council would like to humbly submit that the accused cannot be liable under any of the charges put forth by the prosecution, and the learned counsel for the defense rests.
Yes, anything else?
If the honorable judges and the court master allows, the council would like to answer the question put up by the defense.
Have you replied the question on sanction which my honorable learned brother was asking?
Sanction as well as the applicability of the section 201. It is still unaddressed.
Indeed, Your Lordship, but proper sanction was not obtained under section 45.
That is for the prosecution.
Question is not to you.
That is for the
Question
prosecution.
is to prosecution.
Sorry, Your Lordship.
Please unmute yourself.
Under section 201 of the IPC, if the judges may allow, for a few minutes or a minute, the council would like to answer.
Please be quick. Please be quick. Come on.
Yes, Your Lordship.
If your lordships permit, the council would like to answer the question regarding section 201, causing disappearance of evidence of offence or giving a false information to screen offender. As stated in the preposition, Kalu Mama burned all the evidences which could have been found by NIA when they went to search for the house of Peter. So, since he burned all the evidences, he has caused the disappearance of the said offences which could have been helpful for the prosecution in the present case.
fine.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Now, other question posed by the another judge. Sanction part. Sanction part.
Your Ladyship, can you please repeat the question?
Question is very simple. Was the sanction obtained in this case from the concerned authority?
Much obliged, Your Ladyship. Your Ladyship, the circumstances of the cases has proved time and again that it was a matter of extreme urgency, and to get those fake currency notes or to arrest the accused is for the primary, and it was very important. Therefore, to get certain of the authorities may not have been taken place as prescribed by the book of law. Much obliged, Your Ladyship, Your Lordship.
Over, Courtmaster.
Your Honor, if the question answer, if you are done with the question answer, we may just conclude the meeting.
Any rebuttals?
Indeed, Your Lordship, the council like to rebut the fact of the sanction which has been placed by the learned prosecution. However, urgent a matter can be, unless and until the sanction has been obtained under Section 45 of UAP Act, the court cannot take cognizance of the offence. It is very clearly held in the case of Iqbal Ahmed versus State of Andhra Pradesh that unless and until the sanction has been obtained, no cognizance of a case can be taken under Section UAP Act. So the counsel for the prosecution has not given a proper reason as to why proper sanction has not been obtained.
Prosecution? Any rebuttals from the prosecution?
No, Your Lordship.
So, no rebuttal. Both the sides over. Anything from any side? Thank you, both the sides.
You may ask. Your Honor, if any
Good
queries.
efforts.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Lordship, much obliged.
Thank you to all.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Okay, thank you to all the best. And you all have
Thank you, Your Ladyship.
put forward.
If the Lordship, if I may, could I ask something? Like, is there any suggestion you would like to give to the speakers?
Pardon?
If you all have done very well, you all are very bright. Marks doesn't matter. It is for the present performance. You all are very intelligent and very bright.
Thank you.
Continue reading and come in litigation. All of you deserve to be in litigation. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
I
you,
do
Lordship.
subscribe.
Thank you, Lordship.
Saying that well played. Good.
Thank you. Thank you, Your
Thank you,
Lordship.
Lordship.
Thank you, Your Ladyship.
Thank you, Ladyship.
Nice. The thing that we are not testing your deep knowledge here. We are just testing how you present your case, how you answer the queries, how you give the references of the cases, how you just answer the factual as well as lawful circumstances of the case. That's all. At this stage, we can test this thing only.
Yes. And the capacity of a lawyer is tested when the lawyer loses the case. We lose 80% of our cases and we win 20% of our cases. So don't go by losing or winning. You have presented it well. That's all. All the best.
Correct.
Thank you,
Be
Lordship.
cheerful. Okay, now can we go off the camera?
Please, my lord, we can conclude the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Obliged, my lord.
Much obliged.
Obliged.
Thank you to both the judges.
Thank you.